Yeah, welcome. A warm welcome to all of you to this live current energy discussion and forecast for February 22. My name is Jona Bryndis, and as always, I'm guiding us through this journey of the past month and the coming month from the energetic perspective, always including these different levels of reality, the physical, the emotional, the mental, intellectual, the spiritual, social, and energetic reality. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Can you hear me all right? Let me see. Good audio, good video. Thank you so much. Yeah, welcome to a new month, to a new energy. I think we are all ready for this, but before we dive into the energies of February, let me ask you, how is January going for you? How has all this rapid transformation, as I called it, and this deep inner reconciling, how is that going for you? Who wants to share in this live discussion here? Who has discovered new things last month? Who has gone through a revelation or maybe a new perspective on things? How are you doing, guys? How is this translating for you here at the end of January? You guys are all energetically sensitives. In other words, you're picking up things prior to the majority of people. In other words, for you, things will always feel a little off. You'll always question yourself. You'll always think it's just you, because the majority of people simply not picking up on it yet. They're not responding to it yet. So it's like, you know what's coming and it's happening to you, but because it's offset, you always believe that there's something wrong with you. That's something I think we all have in common. And there's a question here, technical question in regards to our microphones. They are all open, so you should be able to share if you turn your own microphone on. You can also turn your video cameras on if you want to be on the video. This discussion will be available for all Sacred Self Healing members, and then the official forecast that I record here too at the end of our discussion will be posted on YouTube. Yeah, the microphones are open, at least from my end. Do we have a problem here? Let me double check on this, because I'm not hearing
We can hear you.
any. Yes, now I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you, Becky. So there's nothing wrong here on my end. Yeah, the mics are open. Yeah,
I can
wonderful.
share a little bit.
Yeah.
January has been like, I can't believe it's already the end of
I
January.
know. I thought the same thing. I can't believe I'm doing the energy forecast and preparing for the energy tune-up for February already. It feels like it was yesterday that I was talking about
Yeah.
2022 energies.
It
Anything that you're picking up on?
it felt like in January it was all these moments of choices. Like, okay,
Ooh,
it's kind of like old stuff was deeper layers and old stuff coming forward, and it was like, okay, I can either continue down how I've been doing, or I can look for this opportunity to find to see if there maybe is a different outcome here. It wasn't like it was new things that came forward. It was just like seeing kind of things in a new light, in a new way for me.
This new way, Becky, is that what's the nature of this new way of seeing things. I mean, you know, there's obviously some kind of cathartic event, some kind of like big thing that can happen in our life, and that changes our view. That's probably the fastest way to gain a new perspective. Then there is something that you said that reminded me a little bit of it, where you realize, and it comes with the form of realism, right? Where you realize if you don't change anything,
Yeah.
nothing is going to change, right? So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a
Yeah.
you know, it appears like a revelation at that moment, but it really is kind of like a Dur thing, you know. It's like,
Yeah, it's like no
yeah, if
wonder.
I want things to
Yeah.
change, yeah, I kind of have to do it, at least the
Yeah.
first step. So
Yeah.
so you picked up on that, okay? And now comes the $100 million question: what did it motivate you, or encourage, or empower you to change? As
For
for
me,
this first step.
a deeper, the deeper spiritual connection for me, a deeper feeling of that I'm more than just this 3D. It's
Okay. I mean, that's an intellectual, that's a mental conclusion,
yeah,
right? But you said deeper spiritual connection. So what I'm hearing you say is that it also provided you with maybe a different kind of feeling underneath.
yeah, yeah, and a more of an allowing for
Okay.
yeah, rather
What's
than trying to
what's what? Yeah,
control
rather than
everything.
trying. Oh, okay. So there is a word that I'm looking for here that is expanding when we do that. We call this trust.
Yeah,
We may not have solutions yet or fixes, you know, but we kind of feel that if we just keep going, right? If we just allow it to unfold, yeah, it will develop into the direction that I want it to go, for as long as I stay present, right? That's part of it. Trusting always comes with allowing. So in other words, when we find ourselves in a place where we suddenly feel like, you know what, I can allow that. Yeah, allowing is also letting go of the control that you just mentioned. It means that we step into a higher vibration, and that vibration is called trust. Okay. And yes, you're absolutely right. This does feel like a deeper spiritual connection if we so spiritually contextualize it, right? I mean, we could also say, yeah, you know, according to the stats, or, you know, like we could use all different kinds of reasons why we allow ourselves to trust more. But it could also be as simple as, I have faith. I have faith in me. I've learned that if I trust, I will be able to come up with solutions as I go in real time. So I hijacked your words here a little bit. You turned this into an energy
no, that
alignment.
was a perfect description.
Yeah. I know that the hardest part is always to find the right words. And we are talking about very subjective things. Yeah, it's my job to help people to put this into words. It's so important that we hear ourselves say it, that we hear our own voice reverberating in our head, speaking these things out loud. Yeah, this is what forms trust in ourselves, a new level of feeling that we can rely on ourselves, self-reliance, and also a form of empowerment. Because one of the biggest issues that we all have is that we have negative voices in our head that kind of downplay or minimize or demotivate us, right? This voice, this critical inner voice, or negative inner self-talk, as we call this, right? If that is all we hear, it's very, very difficult to see through that. It's very difficult to see anything beyond that. So this is a task. When it comes to allowing, what we actually have to allow is, well, for these critical thoughts to be there, that's all right. But then to step into taking charge. So maybe that's a step other than what you've shared here, Becky, but that's where it ultimately needs to go. It's taking things into your own hands. You mentioned, I think, the word waiting briefly. Instead of waiting that something is going to happen. Remember in November, especially, I talked about this, also in December, how those choices that we make out of our own volition based on a conscious realization, an insight that originated within our own consciousness, that has way more manifestation power than, like, say, a happenstance, something that just happens to us. And psychologically, it makes a huge difference if we chose something or if we were forced to face something. Both lead to the same outcome, if you will. But if you were forced to do it, next time a similar situation comes around, you still don't quite know if you can trust in yourself. If you've consciously chosen it, what it teaches you is to actually trust in yourself. My kids just watched Harry Potter, and they watched the number 6. This is the part where Ron, like Harry Potter's sidekick, goes through a little bit of an identity crisis, and where they're all teenagers and they're trying to find themselves. And he struggled with being the keeper of the Quidditch team. I don't know if you guys are interested in Harry Potter. And there was a scene where he got really freaked out, really stressed out before a big game because he was so afraid of not being able to pull it off. And then Harry Potter gestured that he put a potion in his drink, a lucky potion. And what happens was that everything he tried and more came into fruition. Everything just flowed. It was just like all there. And Ron believed that he was supposed to be lucky because his friend put the potion into his drink. He knew about the potion. So he assumed that everything he tries would succeed. Well, as this is going on, turns out that Harry actually didn't put the potion in there. He just pretended he did. So in other words, everything that his friend experienced as success and luck and just things really coming together happened because he actually pulled it off. Later in the movie, they're going to have to deal with the ramifications of that because he still believed it was the spell. So that had to be transformed. That had to be healed. That the fact that he could only believe that he's lucky or capable if he had a potion. This is basically an analogy for what we do a lot of times. We believe that we need something in order to tap into that part of ourselves. And January really pushed our boundaries there, because if we were sitting there waiting for something to happen, yeah, we had to realize that this ain't gonna work if we just wait for the friend to come along to put the potion into our drink. Yeah, that, you know, the quick fix. This is not the time for quick fixes, guys. This is all long-term stuff that is happening right now. Whenever we talk about collective energies, we're talking about the bigger developments. Yeah, and bigger developments require, they're longer cycles, right? They require much more preparation and conscious planning and seeing it through and real time choosing. We have to be willing to take one step, to lean back, allow it to unfold, see what happens, and then perhaps to correct a little bit and to step into it again and make a change, and then step back again and watch it happen, and so forth. This is how somebody who consciously chooses approaches reality. Yeah, so my suggestion to all of you is to regard reality as something that is in a constant flux. Yeah, that is not carved in stone, but where there is a certain propensity or trajectory, as we call this, based on your input, based on what you put in. So if you look at a development of something and you don't quite know how to get it into your direction, all you really need to know is how to give it just enough push, but without controlling it, so that it maybe faces the other direction. It's like a recalibration, a redirecting. And then you can lean back and you let it unfold and you see how it's going. And as you're observing this, and this is, you know, the power of conscious or present moment awareness, you have enough time, okay, to make corrections, to adjust to it, versus somebody who just sits there passively, tries to check out or look out reality, yeah, what is happening on the outside, and just occasionally looks out the window and says, oh my God, this is happening. Yeah. And sees him or herself in a place where they have to react based on their instincts or their conditioned ways. So this is the big difference between stepping into the present moment and just occasionally dipping our toes. So if we only dip our toes into this ocean of life, okay, we're not going to be able to determine the direction. We're always just going to kind of go with the flow. And if you observe in your life that the way it's going isn't really getting you to where you want, you need to get the rudder out, or, you know, whatever it is that helps you to steer the whole thing, and make a correction into a different trajectory, see how it goes. Yeah, sometimes you have to readjust, sometimes you can just allow it to go. But the major difference being that when you don't do anything, yeah, and Becky, that's what I heard you say. When you just sit there and don't change a thing, but expect different results. That's a guarantee for frustration and powerlessness. You will never feel that you did it. You will never feel that you can own it. You will never feel that you made a difference. Yeah, sorry for hijacking this a little bit. The reason why I expanded on this so much is because this is 100% relevant for February energies. To become more aware of this distinction, of the difference between actively participating in life and simply just experiencing life. And the solution is not in control. The solution is in being present and allowing that which wants to come forward to come forward. Yeah, so keyword allowing here. And yet remembering sort of the bigger picture and where you want to go, where you want it to go. Yeah, and to act accordingly. Yeah, moving on here. Cindy's sharing in the chat, with the pandemic winding down, I feel like it's go time. Don't want to go back to doing the same thing as before the pandemic. All right, so this is cool. You guys are recognizing now that these 2 years of pandemic are almost like a wake-up call. Yeah, so we have a pre-pandemic, a pandemic, and a post-pandemic time. I've caught myself talking about post-pandemic, yeah, the last couple of weeks. So we are already getting a step ahead, yeah, and are looking into what's next. And obviously there's still a little bit of patience needed, because for these collective kind of rhythms and cycles to get a foothold, it takes a little while. Yes, but it's a very, very good choice. Cindy, yeah, if you want to, you know, create a bookmark here for the pandemic in your own personal book of life, all right, it definitely is a worthwhile thought, whether or not we want our life really to be like it was before. And of course, you know, the contemplation that comes with that. What is it that I've learned? What is it that has crystallized here over these 2 years? What have I found out that is truly of value to me, that truly matters to me? And what do I truly want? What do I truly need based on who I truly am? That is, you know, at least for the next 2.5 years, guys, this transformation here that is taking place within, around, and through ourselves. Yeah, collective is all obviously always a little offset, so don't expect a major change in the physical until roughly 5 years from now, but a change in regards to the attitude toward, you know, our societies, toward our power structures, toward our supply chains, toward our food production, toward our earth changes, and so forth. That is in the cards right now. That is basically the whole year of 22, yeah, to shift our perspective into a higher perspective, yeah, and all these changes that come with that in our heads as far as our value system, yeah, what we truly value, what we truly need, what we truly want, yeah. Yes, and you're feeling the bifurcation really strongly. Yeah, bifurcation as in like these split realities, yeah, where one group of people experiences this situation like that, and the other group of people experiences it in the almost opposite way. Mhm. What else are you or have you learned in January? What are you realizing now that may have still been hard for you to see in December? What are some of the new insights that came forward for you through these most, I want to say, most current events? In the energy updates, I talked about a 180 turn. We can already see this in some of our countries, some of our states. So there is a very, very sudden shift here that came in about 10 days ago. Yeah, and we are now basically sort of in this shaking our head, a little bit of disbelief. Those of us that live in countries that are still in it and that are, cannot really see the end of this yet. Even if you see the news from the UK, from Ireland, from Denmark, some of the other countries that have either entirely lifted all restrictions and mandates in regards to COVID as if they never existed, or slowly loosening them up. How is this computing with you? How is this making you feel? There are some very, very strong emotions in the air, guys, right now. Some surprise. Nobody's responding to that. I know you guys are all energetically sensitive and empaths. I know you're picking up on it. What are some of the predominant emotions that you're picking up on right now? It's really, really strong the last 5 days. Yeah, and into February, into the first 2 weeks of February. Disbelief, okay. Cindy, would you like to expand on that? What do you mean with disbelief?
Well, the way that I'm feeling it is that 180 degrees that you were talking about, that really sudden shaking your head, people don't know what to do with it. They have taken, especially in the last year, everybody's gotten so positional about what they think about the whole pandemic, and vaccines and masks and whatever. And now it's almost like it's been turned back over into, our labs. Like, okay, we're kind of done with this, and people don't know what to do. That's why I'm feeling the bifurcation.
We're so responsible now. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's totally relevant to what Becky said, is the choosing factor. If we don't do anything like what you were talking about, the way I'm feeling it and even kind of seeing it is this bifurcation. There are some people that want to go back to the old, let's just get back to, the way things used to be. And then there are others that don't want to go back to the way it was. But there's that vacuum that if you just allow, or if you're just passive and don't make a choice, it's like you're going to slip into one or the other without any volition of your own. It's
you'll almost
like
feel victimized
choose time
by the
kind of
these new or the absence of regulation, right? It's unfair.
Yes.
Right? It's so much easier to just do what we've been told, right?
Yeah, because you don't have to do anything.
Now it puts more responsibility into our hands. And Becky, you were responding here as I had expected you guys to respond. You're picking up on a lot of anger and a lot of grief, and a combination of anger and grief. That's right. Especially last weekend, guys, it was really, really strong. And what happens to anger when it's bottled up, especially the kind of anger that's sort of heavy? What happens to that if we don't express it, or if we don't know how to express it? What do we do with it? We shove it away, right? We don't really know whom to be angry at. Okay. So what's that grief about? What are we grieving, or what are people grieving, guys? What are we grieving that makes us angry to a degree? Tap into this, guys. This is going to be the significant energy here, at least for the next 3-4 weeks.
I feel like it's related to, if not like a loss of freedom, loss of trust. Somehow related to those. Those
Yeah,
two.
Becky's also adding to this disempowerment somehow. Shouldn't we all be happy? Yeah, that the whole COVID thing is over with in a couple of weeks? Shouldn't we all celebrate? Somehow not, right? Somehow not. And obviously it's a little different depending on which country we're in. Cheryl's sharing here that she has to really stay centered right now, because obviously in Canada things are very heated up right now. And the bifurcation, as she wrote here in the chat, is very, very noticeable right now with the convoy to President Trudeau's house, basically. Well, like a protest, a convoy of protest started out with truck drivers, yeah, who, I don't know when that was, but who were forced to get vaccinated as part of the mandates. And that is still intact, and that is still being enforced. Okay, so there is a lot of standing up for freedom right now in Canada and some other countries as well. Yeah, some of which isn't really all that peaceful anymore. Now, guys, you tell me, this is a discussion among us here. What do you expect? Where that heavy anger, that grief, that distrust, where that's going to go here soon? What are you forecasting for these next 4 to 6 weeks, based on what you're already picking up on? What does your foresight tell you, your precognition? Eruption. That's a very carefully crafted word here, eruption, because that is indeed part of February energies. In its ambiguity, because there's also, more of a volcano, an actual eruption coming our way, but also an eruption of emotions. And what do you think that's going to do? Come on, guys. You guys are all energetically sensitive. Robert is sharing, I'm feeling the energy of wanting to move forward, but also still going through the past, and new perspective on that. The anger did a lot of mirror talking today, and true self came through saying, this is how we're going to move forward. I'm not in the past anymore. Yeah, so this is the way this is contextualizing for you, Robert, and that's very cool, because really what you're saying is that, this grief and regret and heavy anger and so forth that is lingering in people, that has to do with kind of sticking to the past, sticking to the agenda, maybe. Yeah, some kind of whatever payoff we expected from taking one for the team, like being good citizens and getting vaccinated, or losing our jobs, or, not sending our kids to school anymore. Yeah, allowing something like passports to go to grocery stores and restaurants. What do we think we will get out of that? That's the frustration, guys. We didn't get the reward. Yeah, the Cheryl sharing here, collectively, we will all eventually have to pass through the 5 stages of grief. But this is why we're discussing this here, guys, and it would actually be helpful if you spoke into the microphone. What is it that we're grieving? What about that freedom that is coming back to us now, that we are grieving? Yes, Julianne, you bringing it to the point. We allowed ourselves to be towed around by the nose. And that is a very painful realization. Yes. And Becky, yes, you're right. There's a deeper aspect to that. I mean, the fact that we didn't choose freedom ourselves. It's kind of like, na 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 na. See what I can do to you, right? All I gotta do is instill fear in you and condition you, and you're gonna do whatever I tell you to do. And it just happened. Turmoil is what Cheryl predicts. Well, maybe. Or a new fear, a new distraction. What about some war? What about some more supply chain shortages? What about some more inflation? What about some more scares? You think that would help people through their grief? If you're understanding how I'm saying this, how I'm asking this, without seeing this as an attack or sarcasm, then you are beginning to understand the true nature of our human psyche. We are being towed around by our nose. Why? I don't have to be a conspiracy theorist, because it's easy to tow us around by our nose. That's why. Because we are gullible, we're greedy, we're blind trust, don't know how to discern truth, we have no real sense for integrity, and for the most part, we're not actually sure what our value is, not to mention the power that comes in with our free thinking and our free choosing. We have no idea how powerful we are. That's why we need to be gaslit into believing that we're losers and that we're not good enough. It's very easy, guys, to tow us around on the nose. All of their creative tragedies will postpone the grief and cover it with more fear and anger. We're being played. Yes, I agree, Cheryl. Except for this is nothing new. This is an old game. This is a pre-pandemic game. This is how it's been. Decades, hundreds of years, millennia. So now I'm asking you guys again, what is this new era, this new post-pandemic era? What has it done to us? What has it done to our awareness? Well, for one, I can tell it made you aware of things, the things that you just shared. Yes, it increased your awareness of what? That you're being played. Yeah, that you're being towed around on your nose, and then you have been. And it showed you your own darkness. Boo-hoo. Yes. Collective shadow clearing, as I have been predicting this for years. Yeah. But what is our darkness, our inner darkness? We talked about this on Wednesday. Beautiful recording is on the Skype thread for the Daily Sacred Self, guys, if you want to go back to those meets, those energy talks that you couldn't be live at. It made you look harder and go deeper. Yes, wonderful, Cindy. Yeah. It made it aware to you that beforehand, you really weren't going that deep. I mean, looking harder, I don't know if I subscribe to that. It's not really a harder, it's a more conscious way of looking, really being present and not just toe dipping. So this is what we're dealing with. You guys got it. We're dealing with the realization that we are just as manipulatable and controllable as everybody else, or those that we look down upon. Maybe it shook our ivory tower, but maybe it made us fall from the ivory tower. Maybe it grounded us. I talked about grounding here in this past week. Yes, it grounded us. It grounded us into the reality of our human psyche and the importance of being fully awake and aware and learning the tools that are needed. I don't want to say to play this game, but to stay on top of the game. Because if you're not on top of this game, it's not maybe necessarily a game that you need to win. In fact, I don't think it is a game that you can win or even should want to win. Because that game is a non-integrous game. That game is called how to overpower you, how to trick you. It's a con job. In order to win the game, you have to be the better con artist. No, you just have to learn the tools how to stop playing the game, how to sidestep the game, how to simply no longer participate to find out. What are you going to find out? You're going to find out that you can create your own reality and that there's nothing in this world that can stop you from doing that due to the power of your consciousness. That's what we found out. Now we got to do something with this. Do we need to go on up onto the barricades? Do we need to, scream revolution and all that? Well, I think it's definitely important to be vocal about this. It's also better for your own sanity, to be honest. But as far as like true changes are concerned, think of the big leaders in this world that actually have brought the most drastic and impacting changes. Nelson Mandela or Gandhi. How did they do this? They were very public and they were also very vocal, but were they loud? Were they overpowering? Were they screaming and mobilizing the masses? Were they playing on people's unconscious drives and mob mentality? No. They did this silently. They did this from a place of silent inner power. I've called this knowing what you're doing. It's to be absolutely conscious about what it is that you're allowing in and that you put out into this world, and to make a conscious choice as to what that is that you are putting out into this world. And that said, I want to inject one more aspect in regards to the pandemic here. I've mentioned this throughout the pandemic. Please revisit all the truth talks, guys, that are on my YouTube channel, because they're all relevant. They're all relevant today. I wanted to inject the viewpoint of how a viral pandemic such as this, regardless of the physical origination of this virus, it's irrelevant for that viewpoint. Whether these viruses are part of what we put out here, maybe the incorporated negativity, incorporated or incorporeal fear and anger, into an RNA with a peptide hole, yeah, a virus, whether viruses come from the outside in or whether they come from the inside out, and then back to us in form of a virus. Those are interesting things to think about if you study some of the theories around immunity and the composition of the human virome, not the biome, but the virome. You will find out that this is not far-fetched. This is not far-fetched, and there will be a lot of research now as a consequence of this pandemic in this direction, and many of you will be happy to hear this, that all these things that we've been talking about for decades, energies and vibrations, will be proven, will find its place in science as maybe epigenetics or consciousness science or epistemology, or I don't know how they're going to call this energy science. Okay, I call it vitality. It's the science of life force. This is also one of these consequences of the confrontation with untruth. Untruth being sort of these last 2 years. It is a more truthful way of looking at things, even if it hurts, even if it means that we have to let go of our payoffs. Any more of your guys' insights, random, whatever comes up, before we move on to the forecast, which, as you know, I always let that already weave into the discussion here. What is it that you're seeing coming forward for yourself, for a collective, not just in regards to February, but in general? What is it, in your opinion, that has to come forward now, that has to follow this initiation into truth training?
There are a couple of diamonds in the rough that I've come across just in the last couple of days. Here in Washington, our governor's been one of the strongest on mandates, and there was something that I read yesterday about as soon as this pandemic sort of thing winds down, the legislature, the Washington legislature, is looking at removing I can't even say the word, gubernatorial powers or limiting them. And I
Okay,
was
so
super
there's an
excited to do that.
there's a hope maybe that the power structures will shift due
Yes.
to people standing up.
Yes.
There is a little bit of a problem here in the United States, Cindy, as you know, that the pandemic has been highly politicized. I beg caution on this to get too excited about that. Yeah, because the powers to be, or the powers that are, okay, they're divided into two factions and they're fighting against another. We're just the pawns.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't be naive.
Yeah.
And
Just
take
seeing it
blindly as a sign of progress, not
yeah,
necessarily.
and hope. That's what when I saw it, especially in our state, because it's been so heavy. Just like, yes.
Yes,
So we'll
and
see.
especially if you compare like the state of Washington, which is like the most furthest northwestern point of the United States, with Florida, right? We're in the furthest southeastern point of the United States. How diametrically opposed the handling of the pandemic was. Yeah, we didn't even have face masks in schools.
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys needed a passport to get into restaurants and grocery stores.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's there's a discrepancy here that is showing, and that was always aware to us, but now this is like also what Cheryl referred to on an even larger scale. If you look at the differences, how things have been handled in Canada versus the United States, there's a discrepancy that is showing here that is making it fully aware to all of us how ridiculous all this is. So we need to use that conscious awareness that we have but first of all, of course, you talked about positionalized, yeah, like how things in emotions have been so positionalized. You need to check that with yourself, yeah. We all need to check this with ourselves at all times. It's that neutrality that I always talk about, yeah. How does freedom come about? How does one maintain freedom? Yeah, and you will find that without truth, freedom is not possible. Yeah, which means that don't look at the things that they say they want to change, or what is supposed to be the new revolution. Don't look at that. Look at the truth level of everything that is being put out, especially those who are suggesting, yeah, to take down the others. Yeah, you might be falling back into that very same game if you buy into this. Now, that said, I don't mean to distrust everything, yeah, or politics or democracy altogether, but I think it's very, very important if we want to understand how to proceed here as society, and to first and foremost understand the true nature of the power structure that we're in. And it's not necessary to bicker against it. Yeah, that has never really done anything. It is important for us to have a realism about that, and what it's truly about and what truly needs to be changed. Will things really change if, one governor will be stripped of his powers and maybe the office of governor? Will this really change a lot? Does electing a new president really change anything? Think about this clearly, guys. This applies to all of your countries. This isn't really about that. Yeah. So when you sidestep, You also begin to see that most of what's going on on stage, yeah, kind of like when you look at a magician's show, it's all just distraction. Yeah, the magic trick is happening somewhere else. So this would be my tip for you, just in general here among us. Yeah, look behind, look through these things. Don't waste your energy on things that you can't win, that you don't even want to win. Step out of the game, guys. Yeah, and find like-minded. I want to play a different game. Yeah, that's how it's done. That's what I meant with Camelots. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these energy pockets. Understand the true power of your consciousness. You can create these spaces, these places, these energy pockets yourself. And I'm not insinuating, anarchy or no government or anything like that. Not at all. That wouldn't be realistic. With too many people, you can't, really run this kind of a wheel, this kind of an infrastructure without a governance. But what kind? So watch this unfold. Yeah, not immediately here, but over the next 5 years. That is the main theme. Power structures. And of course, content, here and there in regards to regulatory stuff, in regards to, well, currencies, technologies, all these things that are being pushed by greed, yeah, but without integrity. These things have to be reevaluated, and this starts with us, guys. We are the ones we're waiting for. We are the ones that this change needs to start with. We have to make those conscious considerations in our own lives and make conscious choices as to how we want to live, whom we want to experience this life as. Yeah, always picture yourself talking to your great grandkids, your great grandkids, if you're so lucky to be alive, and reporting about these times that you experienced while you were alive. Yeah, be a life history book for our children, because we know that our history books are giving a skewed picture of what is really going on. This is something that you can only really be aware of if you look at history books from different countries. Yeah, because it's like the same history, right? But reported from a completely different point of view. Yeah, and you realize that truth is an absolute. Truth is an absolute, even though it's perceived subjectively. And when I say these things like choose whom you want to experience this life as, yeah, and I give you this picture, this imagery where you see yourself as great grandfather or great grandmother talking to your great grandchildren, and they ask you, hey mom, hey grandma, hey great grandma, what was that like during the pandemic when all this went down? And like, we now know that it was a really, really sort of decisive moment in recent history. What was that like to be alive in that time? What are you going to tell your great grandchildren? It's not too late for shadow work, guys. It's not too late. Yeah, let's move on to the forecast. Unless there's any questions or contemplations, that the last sentences here seem to kind of hit home a little bit. any questions or anything that you would like me to respond to or answer before I go into the forecast here, the official energy analysis and forecast for February 2022. Okay. All right, I need to turn off the camera here because I have to use my notes, guys. Obviously, I can't remember all of this. Okay, so I'm switching this and that. So you're just going to see the microphone symbol there. I think that is. Yeah, and we're starting over now. Welcome everybody to our energy forecast and analysis for February 2022. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy coach, energy healer, and visionary, and I guide you through the energies of the past and coming months. So yes, traditionally we do a little review here at the beginning of our forecast to get the right context, and then we move on into what these energies of the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to bring for us. For a more personal response, you can book the energetic tune-up session with me. It's on Saturday at 5 p.m. In that, I do a personal clearing and reading for you and give you a detailed reading and report about what these challenges and opportunities are that are coming in for you personally. So let's start out with these end of January and beginning of February energies. Yeah, the powerful new moon here right on the 1st of February, bringing in something that some of you can already feel in the energy forecast for week 5. I'm going to elaborate a little more on this. Yeah, this has to do with things becoming aware to us. Things are really bursting to the forefront, erupting, yeah, in us, the anger and the grief kind of purging, yeah, blowing out. This will be significant here for this first week of February, because this purge, this release, okay, which can be a little intense on this, say, collective level, as far as like unrests, protests, and so forth is concerned, is needed though for healing. It is the needed energy release, yeah, that we need now to take a breath, to rest, to find the right mindset as to how we want to proceed from here. Yeah, there's been a 180-degree turn as predicted, and many of our countries, some of your countries already have, some of our countries are about to, and some of your countries may take a month longer for that, but they're going to reverse the mandates, the restrictions in regards to COVID, and COVID is slowly trickling out. There'll be, things that we still have to deal with as far as like the disease itself is concerned, yeah, until the end of March into April. But for the most part, guys, this is the end of the pandemic. Yeah, we're going to learn how to live with this. We're going to see this as, just another flu or another cold, okay? And it will be hard for us to remember why there was so much panic. Now, to be fair, the virus has mutated, and there's still a lot of unanswered questions in regards to the origin of this virus, and even the origin of the Omicron variant, yeah, that came in right at the time, the pinnacle, yeah, of fear with almost surgical precision. Obviously, there's going to be more and more revelations about this, and especially to the end of February, but into April, yeah, in regards to the pandemic only. Now, there's a larger picture here that will continue to determine, how we as the collective perceive this whole sort of transformation, yeah, that is going on. I'm calling this getting vaccinated, yeah. So facts are starting to trickle in, and as I have predicted this, yeah, in like a year and 2 months ago, yeah, we're gonna need to get inoculated for real, yes, on that consciousness level. So there's an inoculation going on that is happening for us, and just like natural immunity, those of us who will be present enough, who will have the awareness to make conscious choices, will experience that as a huge liberation. So for our overall society, this first week or two of February will feel like relief, yeah. But this is not the reason to check out. Unfortunately, that's going to happen a little bit here, like it has already happened in the UK, no, in Ireland mostly. That the pendulum swings too far out in the other direction. Obviously, we all want to celebrate our freedom back, but somehow it's not like, like the end of the Second World War or something. There is a bit of a backlash, there's a bit of an afterbite, and that is that we are, well, realizing how we have been towed around, yeah, and how in the process of all of this, a lot of our freedoms didn't just get restricted, but also permanently, yeah, withheld or taken away. This is something that will release a lot of anger, and people do not underestimate that. Yeah. So in that, February is going to be still a fast-moving month, and will bring in a certain level of roughness, yeah, on the outside. But for all of you energetically sensitives and empaths, that is actually a situation, even though you're all afraid of confrontation, but it's still a situation that can make you take a breather, because when things get purged, when things get released, yeah, the energetic pressure that you're feeling becomes less. What you are picking up on, especially in this sort of subtle and not so subtle way, but in this sort of a precognitive way, where you feeling this like a week or two before something is actually coming out in the collective, if you will, you always question yourself and you think it's just you. And that's something that you need to stop doing. You need to stand up, and recognize that your energetic sensitivity is kind of like a preview that you're getting. So stop questioning yourself, question your perception, yeah, and tone it down a little bit, and recognize that this is like outer weather conditions that you're going through, and all you really need is the right equipment, yeah, the right outfit to deal with that, and that's energy management, obviously, and self-mastery, yeah, so that you can rely on yourself, you can rely on your own ability to adjust, yeah, to correct, and to modulate, yeah, and that's really what is meant with energy management. That's something that you can systematically learn. Traditionally, those of you who are energetically sensitive, they have felt attracted to that way before other people even knew what energies were, yeah, simply because you had to, yeah, you needed to find tools that help you to deal with this. But this is all coming into mainstream now, guys. So this purge, yeah, that is coming out in the collective view in form of protest riots and so forth, can be a little destructive in February. So we have to be careful what we're buying into. Remember that when the pendulum swings in the other direction, that it's still relatively low in vibratory rate. It's still below truth. Yeah, so it isn't in truth until it's basically in the balance point, yeah, in the 0 point where it reaches the highest level of stability, but there's no more force needed to maintain it. Yeah, so let's all be compassionate here with our friends and the collective at large. Yeah, how the fear conditioning has pulled them into their inner darkness and into blind trust. Yeah, understand that this destruction of illusion, yeah, that is a bummer. Yeah, because many of us, the majority of us, have seen, you know, this illusion as the security, as the you know, as our safety line, and now we're being basically told that it was all just a fluke. Okay, so yeah, this isn't going to go over well, because as we've discussed on other occasions, there's going to be ramifications, yeah, medical ramifications, ramifications to people's health, yeah, who took these experimental drugs um, based on, you know, the promises and false stats and so forth, that still have to be dealt with over the next 3 to 5 years, guys. So that's pretty serious. And this isn't about our political opinion. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This, unfortunately, is a medical scientific fact. Okay, so there's anger there, there's disappointment and disempowerment that needs to come forward. But for us energetically sensitives, there is a sense of relief, because when it's coming in the forward, when it's coming out in the forefront, we no longer have to deal with those subdued energies, yeah, emotional energies that make our bodies feel so heavy. Now, our personal response to this obviously needs to be observed as well. There's a lot of tendency to go into the victimizer here, to shift from the victim into the perpetrator, and sort of have this drive for revenge. We're going to have to use a little bit of self-restraint here, because that's not moving us to a truth. What can move us to a truth is to do some honest shadow work, and to recognize how you know, some of these fallacies and error perceptions of our ego could pull us into a state of consciousness that made it impossible for us to discern truth. So my message to all of you, as you know, this is something that I have been talking about for over a decade here on YouTube, is that you take things into your own hands, you take charge, and learn what it takes, or what you need to discern truth. Yeah, and that's the beauty of this February, because it really brings in this clarity that is needed to see things the way they are, like it or not. Okay, we need that. That's basically the the prerequisite for truth. You have to be willing to allow truth. Yeah, that without that, you're not going to see it, because your ego forms so many strong barriers, yeah, and blind spots and blocks that literally prevent you from seeing truth. Yeah, so February is all about, you know, those changes that are coming in, and who needs to do what. And there's obviously a larger perspective here that's concerning our whole planet, and all our societies and world government and stuff like that. And then there's a subjective process, how we experience this individually. Yeah, and when it comes to us individually, as I've just reported, then see February as the month of new calibration. You're calibrating yourself, you're orienting yourself, you're setting your inner compass new. Yeah, you're resetting your clock. Okay, you're putting in a new battery. Okay, yeah, that's how you can look at it. This will, and we can already feel this, especially to the end of February, bring in more confidence in ourselves, more trust in ourselves. Yeah, it will make us stronger. Okay, and what that actually is, yeah, that we're gaining here, we're not in a place of freedom yet, but we have moved through this collective experience. We have moved into a higher level of maturity, and personally will gain from that, because maturity, truth, wisdom always wins. Why? because it's self-sustainable. Power, games, manipulation, gaslighting, mind control, war, fear porn, fear mongering cannot win. They can mislead us, but they cannot win because they take an enormous amount of power, enormous amount of force, actually, to maintain that. And that force that it takes, yeah, that force that's based on greed, yeah, on fear, on anger, yeah, these lower vibratory goals that we call darkness, they have a self-destruct programmed in. So you don't really need to do anything. All you got to do is sidestep and not play the game. Let that dark game that is going on self-destruct. It will do that by itself. You do not have to add anything to that. You do not have to take on any of the karma of that. But you also need to know when to step out. Because if you don't, you take on that collective karma. Yeah, phantom pain and phantom fear. Now you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so collectively, it's obviously, you know, not something that we kind of call, you know, a golden time. Okay, so we're looking at a bit of a rough time here, but it's, you know, something that makes our societies, that makes our collective grow in the end. Yeah, any time we have a jump in maturity, okay, we're grown and we can, you know, learn something from this, and it will ultimately provide us with higher levels of consciousness and confidence and understanding and trust. Yeah. So understand that the month of February here is basically the bridge month, yeah, in which self-destruct, yeah, becomes sort of part of the game now. And my tip for you overall is lean back. Allow this new clarity to come in. Don't resist it. Don't beat yourself up. Yeah, understand that there's a huge machinery. There's a huge darkness here that we were confronted with, still are. Yeah, huge confrontation with untruths that will still continue to unravel over the next years to a point of disbelief. Yeah, because blind trust always, you know, brings in disbelief because, you know, you wanted it to be true. Yeah, this is why your ego is the actual enemy. And that's why if somebody wants to control you, all they got to control your ego. They don't have to control what you eat, what you think, and what you say. Because if they control your ego, they know what you're going to eat and what you're going to say and what you're going to do. Yeah. And if there is any iota of pride left in you, human dignity, okay, let this be pride. Let this be the pride that you are human, that you're proud to be human, that you're not a machine. Yeah. Then stand up for that. February is all about making conscious choices. And these conscious choices, yeah, not just la, no, conscious choice. This is a conscious choice to be a human. They are faithful. They are bigger than just you. They are going to form a legacy. That's why in the discussion just a few minutes ago, I suggested that you work with the imagery of, you know, sitting there and talking to your great-grandchildren who basically ask you to be their life oral history book and report about how you've experienced these dark times. Whom do you want to represent there? What do you want to tell your great-grandchildren? Think this through. That's the level of conscious choice that I'm talking about. Yeah. So this deep transformation is now taking on the next step. It's now really about looking forward, moving forward. So this will feel good, you know, but like I've said, it also brings a little bit of destruction with it. So we need to recalibrate, we need to reorient ourselves, set our compass needle to where we truly want to go. Yeah, and remember that this is about embodiment. Yeah, that it's all about the physical reality of things, and that means that we're going to have to be able to trust in ourselves. We're going to have to be able to rely on ourselves. And this starts with how you handle, yeah, your own ego. This starts with self-mastery. And only so, guys, and this is what Fabry is going to give us a glimpse of. Can you find your true heart's desire? It's lurking right around the corner, the next corner, your true heart's desire. But only, as the name says, if you're standing in truth. So my suggestion to you is that you go with these energies. Yeah, it's always best to accept them the way they are, just like weather. Yeah, get a coat on. Yeah, learn the right tools to deal with this and go with what is needed to get through this. What is needed to get through this? You need a clear head. You need good communication. You have good communicational tools. You need to really pay attention to your inner guidance, to your inner attitude. If you have a lot of negative inner self-talk, your chances of seeing your future and life negatively and it manifesting negatively are obviously, you know, through the roof. Yeah. But the same also happens if you shift your attitude toward life and if you shift to a more positive and optimistic outview on life, because then you are more likely to manifest a more positive future. Yeah. So you're going to have to look at things the way they are, be willing to accept it, even if it includes that you have to look at some of your own shadow and some of, you know, the triggered stuff. Yeah. That always comes forward when you do shadow work, because when you do shadow work, you discover it's like you buried talents and true heart's desires. It's the part of you that you cannot love yet. And there's a reason why we buried that. Yeah, it's linked to our trauma. And so when we allow this to come forward, obviously it will remind us of the trauma. But just because we're reminded of the trauma doesn't mean that we have to re-experience or re-traumatize ourselves. Yeah, we just need to learn how to acknowledge it. That's why we're going to engage in trauma healing this month here at transCODES with our public transmissions. In January, we did trauma clearing. Now we're actively going to work with it. Yeah, and as for, you know, these things that can be triggered there, yeah, pay attention to your own coping mechanisms. A lot of addictions are going to get triggered, but also some really, really cool things, especially. And yes, I'm happy to report that around Valentine's Day, yeah, that this is actually a really positive time again for our relationships. Yeah, it will be so much easier for us to clearly express what it is that we need, what it is that we want, and where we want to go. So it will release all this tension in our relationship and really lead to a new beginning. Yeah, we just need to make sure that we keep an eye on, you know, this inner tension between wanting our unconscious drive and desires to be satisfied, you know, as in greed, versus our greater goals and our higher thinking. Yeah, that allows us to see things through a different lens, namely through, you know, a more conscious desiring of things, a more conscious thinking. Yeah, and that's what we need to move forward now. Yeah, do not allow yourself to go into autopilot, guys. Yeah, that is especially to it the the later half of February after the full moon on the 18th, that's the 16th, around this, between the 16th and 18th. You really need to keep this in check at first, the first 2 weeks with the influx of more or less restrictions, we're all going to feel this outburst of like, finally we can let go. But then you're going to have to bounce back, guys, because this is about being more mature now and not letting this happen again. Another positive aspect of February is, a really new innovation cycle that is starting, one that is based on more realistic goals and with this sort of common sense thinking that I've already elaborated on in the energy updates that come out every Friday. That we actually step into, wait a minute, what is actually realistic here and what works and what doesn't work. Things still have to be grounded. They have to, have a good foundation. And for crypto lovers out there, yes, guys, it happened again. Okay, the 32. I don't know if the 32 was actually touched. The 32K for Bitcoin, but as I predicted it. So please don't make any moves here until the 29th. Observe the market capitalization, observe the 24-hour volume. Those are your markers, okay, for big moves happening in the market. There is a new cycle that starts here by the end of January on the 29th, and by the 18th of February, you're going to see that there's going to be regulatory things that come in again, almost unexpected, that are going to give the whole section of blockchain developments and the cryptocurrencies that are based on blockchain a new foundation. So this innovation cycle, guys, that I have been talking about for so many years now in regards to blockchain is now coming forward. For most of you who are not technically interested, you're probably not really going to hear the word blockchain, but know that there is this new innovation cycle coming. It's part of our collective karma to go through technological innovation and learn how to handle it, right? So yes, transhumanism is real and it is scary, but if you go into fear and anger with it, guys, you're just going to do a repeat of the pandemic, okay? What you're going to have to do instead is consciously choose how you want to look at it. And if you stand and choose, you don't have to go into this panic fear. And the mind control makes, that's what makes you susceptible. So conspiracy theories, guys, are just as untrue as the power games. The truth is in the middle. Okay, and that's what I suggest you make your choice. And in order to do that, allow this clarity about your own shadow and your own darkness to come in. Don't beat yourself up. Understand that this is part of your psyche, part of your psychology, part of your spirituality, part of your energy. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, then learn it. This is going to be the knowledge, for the next century. You have to know these things so you understand yourself and others better, so that you become able to discern truth. My personal tip to all of you, and I want to invite you, the Sacred Self-Healing community, and everybody watching this, to join us for a 3-day reboot fast. This fast that I do with my community here is not a full-on fast. It's basically a fluid fast. So we're not going to shock your system here. Many of you are still dealing with all kinds of disease and so forth. We just want to train, the restraining our ego, and for that purpose, we just are going to do fruit, juice, fruit and vegetable juices and broths, and use those as a fast, so a liquid fast for 3 days. I'm going to publish the dates in the new calendar, and to stay tuned, please watch the energy updates that I record live on Skype. That's one link for you. You'll find this here in the description, where we do daily online meditations for free energy talks and energy updates. And if you want personal energy coaching, if you would like to know more about the programs that I offer to learn energy management, to learn the vocabulary and all the tools that are needed for self-mastery, then please go to transcodes.com. The website is still under construction, but at least now you can sign up for ongoing sessions and book a private or a personal energy coaching session with me. With that, I would like to close. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Sacred Self Healing community, for this wonderful discussion that we had here right before the energy forecast. I see you guys all on Friday for the energy update. Wishing you a wonderful transition into this new energy of February. Now will be a welcome shift for all of us, but it's not time to check out yet, guys. You still need to stay on your toes. Now, so enjoy this and, well, allow truth to be there. I love you guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.